Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 10 of RollPlay Far Verona. Look at new faces. Some fictional, some real. There's a small cat. I didn't see that cat in the pre-show.
I didn't see the
God.
cat.
She appeared.
Oh, wow.
She knows that if I'm sitting here, it means she gets treats.
I was gonna introduce Kate and be like, Kate, tell us about yourself. But Kate, who's the cat?
This is my cat. Her name is Loaf.
Oh, so cute.
Yeah, she's usually here during streams or like just there. And she's here because she knows she gets treats.
That's pretty good. Oh, look at that little Loaf. Aw, nice.
I was always told that cats were assholes, and now I feel like I have been massively misled because that one looks super nice.
Well, she's a rescue, so she's used to be an asshole, and now she is less of one.
Oh, so that's what you have to do to a cat. When they're an asshole, you abandon them, and then they learn their lesson.
Apparently.
Oh, they're just like people. You just treat them like shit, and then by contrast, any nice thing you do for them is going to seem like a big deal. Good
This
stuff.
is a really good start.
I figured it out.
High quality human interaction strategies here from RollPlay.
I love it.
So before we get too distracted by the cat, there's an important person behind that cat. Hi Kate. Hello. If folks watch the Patreon video, Kate is already a familiar quantity. But for folks who didn't, tell us a little bit about yourself. What are you doing here, Kate Stark?
Well, I am here filling in for AnneMunition, who is away in Paris, hopefully by now.
Yeah, I saw on Twitter that she was having potentially some flying problems.
Yeah, that's how it goes generally for me when I travel. So sending her the best. But she asked me to fill in for a couple weeks, and this is my first time ever playing a tabletop RPG ever.
Nice.
Wow.
Thanks, Max.
Jeez, Max.
Be kind to me. I created a character the other day, and it went well. Maybe
I think it went well. You have a character. You ended up with one, and that's important.
Yeah, she
you didn't
has
die
a
in
name.
character creation.
Not quite, almost. No, but we're good.
You do only have one hit point though, so we're gonna have to be.
Yeah,
gentle with
I'm about to die. It's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a full-time broadcaster at twitch.tv/Kate, and we have a really fun and positive community, and I'm super excited to be here.
I always get excited when people have what to me seems like really hard to get Twitch usernames. Like fuck all other Kates. You won. You won the Kate race. Like
it can be
got
only
in
one.
on the ground floor. So did you just like luck into that, or did you have to force somebody else out of the Kate spot?
Sort of forced somebody else out, but I didn't do anything. Somebody else did it for me.
Yes, the true way of accomplishing tasks.
But somebody else who doesn't have Kate in their username took the Kate emote prefix, which is really annoying.
Oh,
so now I just need to kill her and then wait 6 months. And then we're good.
Yeah. And then you need to get Kate on Twitter and then destroy all other Kates, and then that's it. Win.
And then Instagram.
Yeah, that's a good life goal, really. It's like the plot of that Jet Li movie where Jet Li has to kill all the other Jet Lis. What was that one called? I think it was called The One. Yep. Well, cool. I'm glad to have you here. This is maybe a weird start for a first time role playing game because it's 2 episodes in the middle of a larger ongoing thing with like a pretty significantly developed universe, and it's not Dungeons and Dragons. So there's not going to be like, oh, you could attack the goblins. That's what D&D is like. You have to do that voice.
Yeah, well, people keep saying, they're like, oh, you're playing D&D. That's so exciting. I'm like, I'm not playing D&D. It's something different.
That's right. Yeah, it stars without number. Thankfully, and this is a thing probably only Mark has any opinion about, Twitch is changing the way that they're structuring categories for role-playing games. You see that?
Yeah.
You see that? I'm so excited. I think it's a big deal. So for
it's going
folks
under
who
like tabletop?
Yeah, for folks who don't know, basically everyone who ever streams role-playing games right now is contributing, because it's the smart thing to do, contributing to the Kleenexification of role-playing games. We all stream under Dungeons & Dragons. Doesn't matter what anybody's actually playing. It's just, let's just categorize it as D&D. But that's because other games are either not in the system or no one would know to look for them if they don't already know what the game is. Like if we streamed this under Stars Without Number, which we could do, no one is going to go to Twitch and be like, I wonder who's streaming Stars Without Number today. Let's take a look, right? So the stream would disappear. So to fix that, they're adding a bunch of new categories, including ASMR. So that's, I know that's exciting for everybody. But they're adding a tabletop category. Yeah, thank you, Max. I thought you might be interested. They're adding this tabletop category, and I'm super excited because it means that hopefully they'll expand some more discoverability into games that aren't D&D, which is super cool.
Or at least get away from that idea that every RPG is D&D. Like, even if it, just to kind of stop people from going, like, you're playing Dungeons & Dragons. It's like, no, I'm playing an RPG kind of thing, yeah.
Well, yeah, invariably when you're doing, like, we get front page for shows sometimes, and you'll get those front page people who are like, this doesn't look like Dungeons & Dragons. D&D doesn't have spaceships. You're jackasses. What are you doing? So, yeah, it'll be cool to be like, yes, we're playing a tabletop role-playing game. This is the game we're playing. Go check it out. Not D&D. Yeah, so that's cool. And I like that. I like that both as a GM who likes other games and also like as a person who would love to not have people confuse my game with Dungeons and Dragons, Like it's good for everybody. So hopefully that'll get some use.
Especially since you hate Dungeons and Dragons, Adam.
I super do. Yeah. Yeah, I always have. Since I was a young boy. It's the worst game in the history of all games. I hate it. And that's why I play so much of it, because it sucks and I hate it. You can clip
D&D killed my family. So I have a really good reason for hating D&D. Yeah.
D&D abandoned my cat. So
yeah. Oh, it used to be Dungeons and Dragons' cat. Yeah. God damn. Oh,
but at least now the cat is not an asshole.
Exactly.
So
like D&D.
Yeah.
Wizards,
someone
if you're
needs to
watching
abandon
this,
D&D.
I don't hate.
I have friends who work at Wizards. I love them dearly.
I was gonna say, poser. I see those books behind you, Mark.
It's nothing. You can't see anything, please.
Yeah, that's fine. I feel like I know people who work at Wizards of the Coast is not a good, like, listen, I know I talk shit, but I have friends that work on Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, that's cool. I'm allowed to talk like this. Yeah, that's fine. That's cool. But so that'll be
I'll say it anyway.
Listen, we know you don't care about what you say on the internet. You're fine. You have no filter whatsoever. We know that already about you, Bronze. It's cool.
It's called authenticity, Adam. Some people view it as a positive.
Yeah. So what have you been doing authentically lately? How's your shit going, Bronze? What's new?
It's going well. It's going good. Yeah. I got hangry and flipped out on stream today. That was a good thing.
You seem a little hangry still. Are you fully recovered from your hangriness, or
what? No, I'm not hangry. Did I come off strong? We're friends, Adam. It's okay.
It's par for the course. It's cool.
Yeah. Sometimes I come on a little strong. It's okay.
All right. So we're gonna do this.
This is ASMR. I don't know what's happening right now.
What are you playing right now, Bronze? What are you doing? What's taking up your time? Have you suffocated in the horrible smoke storm that is the Pacific Northwest right now?
Yeah.
Or are you keeping safe inside?
I've been for the most part staying inside because I went outside and there was a bunch of dead bugs just like on the car that like fell out of the atmosphere, and I was like, I probably shouldn't be breathing this at all, because if it could kill a myriad of bugs, like literally the windshield was covered in about 20 to 30 like mosquitoes and gnats.
Really
like
bad.
Yeah, Bronze
falling out of
isn't.
the air.
She's not overtelling the story. Like, this is what it's like. Like, there's so much weird smog and like death air that going outside and seeing a bunch of dead animals just laying in the street is like, I would expect that. That's pretty normal.
Yeah.
What?
Dead birds and shit. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's really smoky out here. Yeah, so I'm definitely staying indoors, which, I mean, lucky for me, like basically everything that I love right now has something going on with it. Monster Hunter World just got ported over to PC. I've been playing Monster Hunter since like the PlayStation Portable. Freedom Unite was my first one, so I'm like an OG. But we got that one.
I like how even you knew that what you were saying was intolerably dorky, and you put on the voice to make fun of yourself while you were saying it. That was good. I like that.
I'm so like tongue in cheek about it with the whole like, I'm a veteran hunter, by the way.
I imported the Japanese version before you could get it in North America. Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
I know you.
Yeah, so Monster Hunter World just got ported over to PC. The new one for Switch, GU, which previously was only available in Japan. Some of us played it in Japanese. That one's coming out at the end of the week. We got Yakuza Kiwami 2 and a new WoW expansion just dropped. So there's too much. It's the only time in my life. Well, not the only time. One of the rare times when you look at your computer and you're like, there's so many things I want to play.
Are we all avoiding, like, is anybody here playing the new WoW expansion?
I am, sadly.
Okay, so we got half and half. Okay, cool. Mark, have you been streaming it,
when
Mark?
I think I'm out, it sucks me back in.
Yeah, same. That's like it's the same for me. Like I will play the new expansion, play it for like a month, and then I'll forget all about it, and then I'll come back to it a month before the new expansion drops, and then the cycle repeats forever. Yeah, I wanted to start streaming it, but on Monday I had to kind of change up all my plans for the week because I had a quick A&E trip. Thanks to a kidney stone. But yeah, I want to. I think like tomorrow and Friday, I don't have any plans. So my plan is to stream it all day, Thursday, Friday.
So for our North American audiences, when Mark says A&E, he's not referring to the Arts and Entertainment Network. This is a different where he's from.
Accident and emergency at the hospital is what that stands for. So yeah, that was fun. So my plan was to stream that all day Monday and then do some recording for an upcoming D&D thing I'm doing. And yeah, I got to the office and then had a kidney stone attack. So that was fun. And then yesterday I was kind of recovering because my meds made me really sleepy. And now today I'm here. And then tomorrow I'll play some games. And it's all good.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're feeling better. I'm glad you're here.
Thanks,
looking
man.
Looking forward to playing.
Yeah.
Max, I have to check in. How's the life of a semi-professional hurdy-gurdyist going? Have you been practicing?
No, I have not, because I don't need to practice, Adam.
Ooh, shit.
He's the talent.
Well, with all that free time that you have being... Yeah, Max, what's a hurdy-gurdy?
A hurdy-gurdist is one that is proficient and is very knowledgeable about a hurdy-gurdy, which is an instrument that is sort of like a crank-operated violin with 4 or upwards of that strings, used a lot in the Renaissance era, used in the popular game Sea of Thieves when you're on the ship. It's very cool. It's cool.
Is that okay? So is Sea of Thieves why you got into like the hurdy-gurdy? Yes. That's so. I love that shit. So this is totally a thing, and I don't know if this just happens to like me and Max, but like you'll be playing a game you really like, maybe it's a role-playing game or whatever, and something will be in it, and you'll be like, oh, that's interesting, and then you kind of like go off on a tangent, like learning everything about that weird side like niche thing. Oh, I love when that happens. That's so good.
It will happen eventually. What's that?
Do you have a hurdy-gurdy?
Yes.
Well, now we talked about it.
I literally thought you were talking
now
like
we
you were just playing. I thought you were just playing a lot of Sea of Thieves.
No, he's like legitimately, he owns a hurdy-gurdy. We've made him try to play it on stream. It hasn't gone well. So that's why I'm checking in. I'm like, how's the hurdy-gurdy doing?
Yes.
It's a beast.
I've never seen one.
I forgot that this is a Court of Swords. This is a Court of Swords meme. I forgot. Yeah.
It's in bad condition right now. It's not, I don't know properly enough how to like upkeep it and stuff. However, there's other hurdy-gurdis that are in the Chicagoland area that I'm going to take it to eventually. I have the time. And
oh my God, are you gonna join the Chicagoland hurdy-gurdist society? Is there a guild? Do you have to get a cool tattoo? Is there a secret handshake?
I'll play just a little bit of it, not much, just because it sounds kind of bad.
Brace
My
yourself.
mind is being blown.
Doesn't sound as good as you thought it was gonna, right? See, it's a little bit of it's a disappointment. See, it's not good, but it will sound better, and I'll be better. I promise to do better. With the hurdy-gurdy.
I believe in you.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
It's a neat instrument. I honestly like. I'm fascinated with just when I saw it in game. I thought it was. I didn't even realize it existed. Like in Sea of Thieves, I'd never come across it. And then I started thinking back to like other stuff that has like, pirate, themes and stuff in it. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that's what that sound is. Huh, interesting. And I got real deep into it and bought one. So I'm gonna.
As
That's more
as I
notable.
get older, I find myself looking for more weird affectations to get into, and I feel like an unpopular medieval instrument is like a real good one. That's a good call to be
Yeah.
like, yeah, I can play an instrument. Oh no, not a guitar, not a keyboard, not the drums. I play the hurdy-gurdy. It's kind of my thing. I
Well,
like it.
the
It's a good choice.
goal is now, like, I just went to the Ren Fair again and like really upgraded my pirate like costume for stuff. And the goal now is to get really decent at the hurdy-gurdy to the point where I can play like something that, you know, that'll like just enhance that whole thing, and then take it to the Ren Fair, walk around as a pirate with a fucking hurdy-gurdy. That would be sick.
Yeah,
So
that's pretty good.
that's my long-term goal down the line.
That's
Man,
a good
yeah.
goal.
Yeah, we gotta get everybody on any of the role play shows who plays a musical instrument to get together and like do a role play song. We got to do that. I don't know. Does anybody else here play anything? I can't play shit. So
I
can
play
play
a
not
little
big
bit.
into this.
I play a little bit of harmonium, which is like,
Nice.
And of course, we all know what that is.
Mhm.
well, it's also a instrument you pump air into, but it has like a piano on top. That's the best way to describe it. They're pretty
cool.
like it's not like medieval or anything though. It's just like foreign.
Man, everybody's got a cool musical instrument. I gotta get one. Wonder how much
A
a
recorder
shawm
is not a
costs.
cool musical instrument.
As if
I don't
it's
think it's
not.
that cool.
Yeah, mine's not cool.
Disagree. I disagree. I bet you could rock some excellent hot cross buns on one of those things.
Oh hell yeah, I can.
Did you learn how to
Oh,
play the
inspiring,
recorder
yes.
in like elementary school? Is that where you got your recording
Yes,
skills from?
We were
Me
we were
too.
forced to.
I feel like we participated in the same youth education programs because I also
I wonder why.
funny how that works. Can you play anything, Mark? You know any musical instruments?
No. Oh god, no.
No.
I'm so musically untalented. It's ridiculous. I can barely sing. I used to do like musical theater and stuff, and I can vaguely get by singing, but nothing beyond that.
Yep. Yeah. Someone in chat pointed out, didn't Adam used to belong to a noise band? Yes, but noise is not a musical instrument. I could make my computer make weird sounds, and then people stood there and nodded while I did that for a brief period of time. It doesn't count. I still can't play a musical instrument.
Sounds like your kind of scene for sure.
Yeah, dude, it was, yep. Yeah. It's hard to believe, but there was a time where I was more pretentious than I am now. So that's tapering off a little. Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for the updates, everybody. I've missed you. We have 2 new characters and a new player. So this episode is going to be, and I was saying this to Kate earlier, it's going to be a bit of a slow burn. We're going to like warm up, get to know these characters a little bit, give everybody kind of one thing to do this episode and the next episode, and then set up for Anne's return and our return back to the usual biz. So I want to check Max before we get started.
Yep.
How much time do you want there to have been? So Booker was a captive in the hands of the loyalty brigade of Honglu for a while, like up to like 3 months. So what I was wondering, the process, like how long did that last? Like were you released and then maybe spent some time like on Hyra, kind of getting reintegrated, or are we going to start with the Prudence like picking you up from your captors? How distant from this experience are you interested in being?
I think
I could go either way, but
I think I kind of like the idea of having a little bit of a time skip. Like, yeah, they took a little bit of time to reintegrate him in. And
yeah, so you were captured January like 6th or 7th, I think, and the game is currently March 16th. It's the 16th of March. So yeah, you can kind of tell me how much of that was captive time and how much of it was like something else.
What is the current date you said? You just said it. You said
March
16th?
March 16th, 3200. So it's been like 2.5 months, maybe a little longer.
Okay. Yeah, so I'd say like a couple weeks has been like him, I said, on Hydra. And Booker wanted to go right back into it, but they were just like easy there. Like, you know,
Okay.
I want to say
Forced
that
downtime.
I want to say actually he got like a psych eval thing, and they were not.
Oh yeah. Okay, so you spent 2 weeks on Hyra because somebody was like, he's not ready to go back into service yet.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you? I guess my question for you, like both in character and out of character. So does Booker think he was ready right away? That he was like, this was just a hassle for him?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Booker wanted to go right back into it. He's just like, get me out of here, get the fuck out of here. You know.
Okay, and then who?
Begrudgingly going along with everything, and just like, I want to.
And who was the one? Who was the one that said that you had to? Was it like House Crux? Was it like the Justicars? Was it like who decided that you needed more time?
I'd say that it's probably House Crux.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to say too, it's someone that in Booker's past that he's known for a while, and they've known of him, and they just everyone else was convinced, like okay, yeah, sure, he's fine. But something about this particular person, since they know him and what he's usually like, it's like something is off.
Okay, so somebody knew you. Okay, so someone in the hierarchy.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. So somebody kept you grounded for those 2 weeks for like political reasons or like personal reasons, like they knew you could be a loose cannon if you didn't get deprogrammed. Okay.
Personal reasons, yeah.
Okay. Cool. I will make a note. All right. So I guess then when we come in, it'll be in orbit around Hyra. You'll be getting picked up by the Prudence off of the Crux homeworld to return you to to duty. Okay. I like that. So let's talk about goals. So I know goals can be a little hard to write in a vacuum because we don't really have like, here's everything that's going on already. There's an ongoing situation. These goals are going to be probably kind of loosely integrated, and you're likely to write new ones for the next episode when we have a more concrete situation going on. But let's talk about what our goals are for this session. So the current situation is that all of you are relatively new to the Prudence. You are either officially assigned as crew, or you may have other reasons that you've been put on the ship, which might be known or unknown to the rest of the crew. And these goals can be about things that you want to accomplish in that situation. The ship, the Prudence, is just like a house crux ship that goes from planet to planet, essentially just keeping Imperial law kept. Its main mandate is completing the sort of decommissioning and retirement of extant synths, but there are other missions that get picked up along the way depending on what system you're in and kind of what's going on. So some connection to that is helpful. So Booker, now that you're being reassigned, you're being put back on the Prudence. Do you know what you want your goal to be?
Part of me thinks it'd be an interesting goal to find out. Like Booker suspects that somebody is responsible for him being grounded. He wants to find out who that is.
Like figure out why I didn't get assigned, like why I didn't get put back.
Basically,
right away.
If you want to put it simply, yeah, like figure out why I was grounded, why I was not reassigned and reintegrated back into the on duty.
Okay. Right. Okay. Cool. Because you knew, you were like, I'm fine. I'm ready for business. Okay.
At least that's what he believes.
I like that. Yeah. I mean, the sad answer to this might end up being like, because actually you weren't ready, because like for reals, you're suffering from some post-traumatic stress disorder, and like you actually have some mental damage as a result. But it could also be like somebody's out to get you. Okay. I like it. All right.
In either case, he's curious. He wants to know. Something was off about that.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So Mark, for your character, for Chaplain Valencio, what do you want?
So I was thinking about this, and I don't know if this is maybe too open and vague for a goal. But he's considering he's just been established onto the Prudence, like he's just been assigned or whatever as the new chaplain. Maybe something like get to know my new assignment team, because I'm guessing like he knows that he's going to be eventually put with this kind of recon team that goes down to the planets. And he'd probably want to get to know some of them. But I don't know if that's too open.
So here's a question I want to kind of work out with you. So the ship has in the past had a chaplain already. There's a member of the clergy, Chaplain D'Souza, who has been operating the ship. Are you here to replace him? Are you working alongside him? Are you being assigned for a specific purpose?
Yeah, I think that I've been brought on, maybe not to replace, because I imagine that Valencio will need to be going on these missions with the team. So he's not there to replace the chaplain, who will provide most of the day-to-day sermons and things like that. Valencio is here as an advisor, specifically for the nobility. So maybe literally assigned to the team to, they've had a rough time of it on Honglu, like Nomi and Banez and Booker all had like a really rough time. So, and the church obviously wants to make sure they feel spiritually supported and that they have a chaplain ready to assist them. And then also they know that I can handle myself in certain situations.
Right. So most of the rest of the crew is going to be like, cool, why do we need 2 priests? And also, like, what's up with this new guy? And you have a mandate to spiritually support, but also like keep an eye on everybody. And I think sort of pursuant to this this whole thing that Booker has a suspicion that there's a conspiracy at play here trying to keep me from. You're being assigned particularly to like keep an eye on things, and by things we mean like Booker and his team. Okay, cool.
But then maybe as well, I was thinking as well, like maybe the previous chaplain could be quite old, so maybe I've been kind of sent along to kind of like also provide like a younger man to help him out or something, or young, to help him out.
He's definitely, Chaplain D'Souza is definitely not like a field operative, right? Like he's not the kind of guy. Maybe in the past, he's not a missionary, right? He's been predominantly there to advise the Richter on matters spiritual, just to be a presence for the High Church on the ship.
So maybe if he's like mainly for the Richter and like the higher ups, maybe like I'm being kind of brought on to also be for the more regular crew members as well, like because like one chaplain for a big ship, I imagine that's a lot of work. So like maybe you know how you get like priests where they have like a younger priest and an older priest working together kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, like something when you need to perform an exorcism.
Exactly.
Right. There we go. All right. The ship is haunted, and now we have a young priest and an old priest, and that's going to be your side story. Is there's space ghosts, and they need to
ghosts.
Okay. All right. So what do you want your goal to be for this one? And it could be like, since this is kind of the intro, like warm up for all these characters, it could be as simple. And I was saying this to Kate earlier too. It could be as simple as like, get to know Booker Greaves a little better, or
I think like get to know my new assignment team was what I wrote down. Okay. So I don't know if we want to specify who. No, there's also like this. I hear about this Vela girl who is in need of some advisement.
Yeah, like I think I can fairly clearly at the end of the episode we can say like, did you get to know all of them better? And all that might require is like a couple of conversations, right? So yeah, that's fine. I think it's clear enough. Cool. Okay, so Bronze, what do you want me to? How do you want me to short form? And I guess this actually, let me ask Mark too. Mark, what do you want me to short form your character as? You want me to call you Gabriel, Valencio, Chaplain Valencio?
Yeah. Chaplain Valencio or Chaplain Gabriel is generally what he goes by. So, like, I imagine the Richter and people like that would call him Chaplain Gabriel. That's like his more official title. But to people that know him well, he's Valencio. So
okay, so Gabriel is your family name or your first name?
Family. Gabriel is the family name because I looked at the High Church and it was title, branch, first name, last name. So Gabriel is last name, Valencio is first name.
Perfect. Yes. Okay. So Valencio is your first name. Gabriel is your last name. Cool. Chaplain Gabriel, or for people who might know it, Valencio, but probably no one on the ship knows your first name.
Yeah, I imagine most people would call me Chaplain Gabriel.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Or Chappie. All right. So same thing. Bronze. What's the preferred short form for your character's name?
Probably just her first name, Kiran. So
okay. That's what I had written down. I wanted to just make sure. The polite way of referring to you would be like Emira Carr, but yeah, I'll call you. I'll call you Kiran. Okay. Cool. So let's talk about your place on the ship. So again, like the ship has a Valen navigator right now, which is Arnaud Sujin. What is your connection to her? Like we talked about, you have a relative that wanted you put on this ship. What do you think for that?
So essentially, I've the way I had it, my head canon for it, or not even, it is canon because my head canon is my canon. Ha ha
Yes,
ha.
you're the one playing the character, so yes.
Um, basically, the navigator on the ship is my aunt,
Okay,
and
so Navigator Sujin is your aunt. Okay,
mhm, and she's
cool.
doing me a huge favor, or she's done me a huge favor by taking me under her wing, to sort of like be her assistant on board because, and I'm sure those of you who watched the Patreon video, but those of you who haven't, you'll figure it out eventually. But like, she's basically like Kieran's in a little bit of trouble with her family.
Okay.
So yeah, as a her aunt decided to do her a solid and get her a job essentially, or a place
So
on
yeah,
board. So
you were on a different ship, serving as its
mhm.
navigator recently, but something went wrong there, and I don't need to know what it is now, but something went wrong on that
Mhm.
ship that caused you to be reassigned to the Prudence. The Prudence also took on some other like members of that ship's crew. I will let you percolate over what it was and how much of your fault it is, but
Okay.
something bad happened on that ship, and you got transferred. And you can kind of like think on that a little bit.
Okay.
But that's just something I want to let you know. Okay. All right. So what do you want your goal to be for this session?
Um, well, I want my goal to be to find like a way or a job, like a different something else to do for a few weeks because at this juncture me and my aunt are driving each other crazy and I'm trying to get some distance. So,
Hmm.
I'm going to try to find an excuse to get away from her for a while. So, basically to find busy work for myself, which will
Okay.
probably ultimately lead me to working with these other people here. But yeah, essentially to find a like either find a task force or a job for myself to do. Like next time someone's like, "We need people to go on this planet to do," volunteer like immediately because I
Yeah.
need to get away from her. We're driving each other nutty.
All right. And that is as much for her goodwill as it is for your own sanity.
Yes, yes.
That makes sense. Okay, so just literally just like find something to do that isn't like get instructed on how to operate the Prudence's navigational software because you got it under control. You know how to do that.
Mhm.
Okay.
She's a
All right.
micromanager. It's gone
Yes.
too far.
Okay. I like it. Okay, cool. And then Lyra Lilith, you're the outlier, right? Like you ended up on the ship somehow. And I don't know, maybe did you come over from the same ship as Kiran, or have you been on the ship for a while?
I think I've been on the ship for a little while, but haven't really talked to anybody. I've been kind of
Okay.
keeping to myself.
Right. So you just like got on the ship and that is that. Okay.
Well,
I
this
like
is
that.
kind of where I want to like go with my goal because I feel like with my history, I'm pretty lost. I don't really know where I'm going or what I'm doing. And so my
Mhm.
goal is to kind of befriend Chaplain Valencio and try to get like some sort of guidance from him
Oh,
because
I love it.
if you actually like look at my past, if you saw I guess if you saw the Patreon video, I'm kind of like vagabond, don't really have a direction, don't really know where I'm
Okay.
going, but I feel like coming onto this ship, maybe I could get something from you and like learn
Yeah.
from you and try to get
Right. So
guided
like
to
yeah,
maybe
to turn to the Padre to figure out what to do with your life, as
yeah.
many people do. Okay.
Yeah.
And does this represent, and I guess this can come up in your conversation, but I'm just curious, does this represent like a larger change? Are you trying to give up your kind of wandering life? Like it sounds like you and Kiran have that in common where you're like, I just need to find something to do with my life.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking
And
that
so
like it was kind of what I was brought up with, but maybe not what I'm looking for. And
mhm,
so it's
okay.
something that I'm actively looking to change.
Okay, cool. So we'll interrogate all of that stuff kind of in character. It sounds like there's gonna be lots of good like conversations and getting everybody kind of restructured on the ship. Okay, perfect. All right, great, good. So everybody has goals, which means you can get XP. That's nice. And cool. And so we'll start the episode on there's a fade in from the opening sequence to the surface of Hyra, the Crux homeworld. This is one of the core worlds in the system. It's an elder part of the empire, and it's in the Ellis system. It's in the same system as it used to be the Cygnus homeworld, but not so much anymore. It's a mostly cold planet. The system's been bioengineered, so we can see it's got this kind of like semi-artificial atmosphere that's been changed. And from up here, you can see probably in the night side of the planet, the sparkling of one of the many cities of Hyra. And I think we track up from the planet with a Crux shuttle. We follow this shuttle, and as we do, we cut to an interior shot of the shuttle, and the shuttle is only there's only a pilot and its passenger. The pilot has a big reflective nav helmet on and is focused on bringing the shuttle up into space. But the passenger, we get a moment where we get to see in the light through the port. We see you, Booker. And how are you? Describe Booker to us, right? It's been several months since we've seen him. And I think that the title comes up. We get the title card. It says Crux shuttle in orbit, Hyra, March 16th, 3200. And as that fades, we pan over to Booker. What does Booker look like?
Booker's looking in his normal officer uniform, but this one's a new one, not the one that he had before. It's the last one that he had that he has worn forever. Is gone. Who knows what happened with it on mission? And now he's in a fresh, crisp new uniform, but he himself looks very lost in thought. He's like looking out the shuttle window right now as he's leaving and making his way back to the ship, and he just kind of does this. He's just staring down at the bench, contemplating like what's up there, or what's going to be. What is he going to be met with on the ship as a result of what happened from the last time?
Yeah, cool. Okay. Yeah, and we see the convict's moon kind of pass by in the background. The soundtrack is a sort of tense, like the House Crux theme, but played in a tense minor key. And and it really imparts this sense that Booker is troubled still. In this moment of quiet, and we pan out and we see the shuttle approaching the great curved sword that is the jurisprudence. We get the title card, 167 meters of pure jurisprudence, and we see the one of the docking ports open and the shuttle fly in. So the interior of the shuttle bay is you're not receiving, like, this isn't a hero's return. There aren't like enormous Crux banners and trumpeters and soldiers arrayed to welcome you back. We see the shuttle land in a pretty unassuming shuttle bay. There are deck officers moving back and forth. We can see some of the Crux like drop shuttles that we've seen in previous episodes, and the shuttle lands unceremoniously on the deck. The doors slide open, and the pilot turns, and you get we hear him say, "This is your stop, officer."
Yep. Appreciate the flight. Wasn't too bumpy.
And he gives you a little salute, and then turns back to the console to wait for you to disembark so you can return to the planet.
Yeah. Booker steps off. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you step out onto the deck of the ship, and there's the faint kind of mist that comes from the ion engines of the vessel, and you walk through that out into the shuttle bay, and I think ahead of you you see three people waiting for you. Your welcoming committee is three people. Two you recognize, and one you don't. At the head of this little triangle of people, you see the Richter. He's wearing his judicial uniform. Not particularly. He's not dressed up for your arrival. He looks like he's just come from a meeting. He's got his data pad in his hand, and and he's looking. He's got a sort of a neutral countenance, maybe a little bit concerned, his brow a little bit furrowed, but that's sort of a default look for the Richter. And he's here to greet you because it's his job. It's important ceremonially. He's also joined by another familiar face. you see Ibanez Yancey. And Yancey is he's wearing a uniform, but it's not a like a grunt's uniform. He's not wearing his sort of like private's outfit. He has the purple epaulets and the black jacket of an officer, like a proper officer now. And yeah, and he's trying his best not to look like smug, but you can see you're familiar enough with this man. He's a little happy with himself. And there's a third person with them who you've never seen before. Do you want to give us a description of this third person, Mark?
Yeah, so you see a man in a very slick black suit with a priest's collar and a small golden pin on his little lapel, his suit lapel. Beard, short, but, well, kind of like medium length hair, but very tidy, well kept, very well kept, groomed beard. Maybe slightly Mediterranean look, kind of slight Italian look to him, with very calm, very serene looking expression, looking a little bit concerned and just like holding his hands kind of clasped before him, just kind of like waiting very patiently, looking Booker's way.
All right. So Booker, you step off the shuttle, and you hear the door like slide shut behind you. And what do you do when you see these folks? Do you say something, or do you wait for them to approach you? Or
he just starts walking towards them. Seems like they're waiting for me. So
yeah. So you walk up, and the Richter takes a few steps towards you, puts out his hand to shake yours, and he says, "Officer Greaves, it's good to have you back. It's been a long few months without you. I'm glad to see that you're in one piece. I hope your time on Hyro was good. You're feeling well, ready to return to duty."
As good as you can be. It's good to be back, Richter. Hope all things have been well here.
As well as they can be. We are doing what we can. I wish that I had time to visit the planet. I have not been home in... Well, you'll have to tell me all about it over dinner. You don't have plans, I assume. Grins. And the Richter does this. He's giving you an order, but is couching it in like...
Yeah, it's like, we're going to have dinner.
Yeah, we're going to have dinner later, but you don't have plans, do you?
Yeah, Booker nods and we're like, that'll be fine. Look forward to it.
Good. I as well. And he turns, and he turns to Yancey, who just gives you a nod, doesn't say anything, and then to his left, to this priest, and he says, "We have added some compliments to the crew. The High Church has assigned us a new chaplain."
I'll extend my hand quite pleasantly and be like, "Officer Graves, it is wonderful to meet you. I'm Chaplain Gabriel." I just offer my hand in a handshake.
Good to meet you. And grabs that, receives a handshake.
As the Richter has already asked if your time on the planet was enjoyable, and I just wanted to come along and introduce myself, and to let you know that I am here if you need to speak to anyone. My doors are always open, and if you need to, I'm someone that you can come and speak with. Obviously, we understand that you have gone through something quite dramatic, and the church is always happy to help.
Appreciate it. It's not my first time being in captivity, but as you say, it does take a toll. Appreciate the kindness.
It is my pleasure, please. Simply, even if it is just to enjoy a good drink and to discuss a game or anything like that, it does not have to be about what you went through. Just know that I am someone that you can come and speak with if you need to.
Perhaps a drink sometime then.
That sounds wonderful.
The Richter says, "Yes, the two of you will have plenty of time to talk. The chaplain will be joining us for dinner tonight. I'm afraid that your vacation is over, Officer Greaves. We have work for you to do."
Good.
And he turns to Yancey, and Yancey says to you, he says, "It'll be some time before Nomi returns. The Cirrus is off-world, called back to Hroa. Serpent's business. Bad timing, but, well, we'll talk about that at dinner. It's good to see you well, Graves. I was worried we'd lost you.
Officer Banyas, good to see you and Nomi made it out. I was a little worried for a while, but nice to see you.
I'm sorry, Graves. It's Sergeant Ibanez now.
You are still an officer, though, yeah?
You've been away a long time. Your protocol's a little rusty. We'll let it slip for now.
Last time I checked, Sergeant's still an officer, I think. It's like a checking like to himself.
Yeah. I mean, technically, yes. You're all officers, but he outranks you now, so it's a little bit informal to call him an officer. But I suspect you knew that.
Yeah, but that's the what Booker kind of motions to like the Richter, like, well, an officer, right? That hasn't changed. I don't.
Yeah, and he says,
and then as he does, he's like, my apologies, Sergeant.
He nods. Of course, Officer Greaves. And he turns to the Richter and he says, Richter, if you don't mind. And the Richter is like, of course. And Yancey turns and leaves because he's obviously got important officer business to do. So he heads off. Cool. Okay. So, Booker. Yeah, I think you the three of you start walking down the corridor together towards like Booker's new digs, his new quarters. So yeah, if you have something you wanted to say to him.
No. It was literally just to be like just to offer to escort them, but if it sounds like we're all working our way anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, I think you leave then, and there's no reason to kind of like stick with them as they go. But Booker, you're given a room. Like it's not the original quarters you were in, but all of your things have been essentially like vacuum packed up and brought over to this room. So when you come in, it's just like kind of a sterile, empty room with a cot, and then a side room with a bathroom facilities, and then nothing, no decoration, just kind of bog standard Crux officer stuff. But there is a pack with your name and serial number on it of all of the things that you left behind.
Yeah, Booker kind of surveys everything and grabs a couple pictures and looks at them and he's just kind of doing inventory to make sure all this stuff's there. The first time he's seen it in a long while, so he's kind of doing mental inventory and settling in.
Yeah. So you take a look at all of your stuff, and we kind of fade out on you, like unpacking, basically, kind of getting resettled. Cool. Okay. All right. So when we fade over to the next scene, where are you at, John? Where do we find you? Are you just like hanging out, or are you like busy with something, Bronze?
Oh, I didn't catch you were talking to me. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. It'll take some time to like get back in to that. So yeah, where do we find you? Like
different names.
I know, right? So when we fade over, basically, like I know that you're constantly like looking for shit to do. So what is your current scheme to like occupy yourself?
When you find me, I'm in my quarters and probably having an argument with mi madre.
Okay, so you're on comms. Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay,
we're in my room.
What's great about having arguments with people who are in other systems than you is you're just yelling at a camera and then you send it to them and then they'll yell at you and send it back like a week later. So you're essentially writing an angry letter.
Yes, because I've just finished reading hers, and so I'd most likely be responding.
Okay. All right. So are you what how much of that do we catch? Is this a like and that's that slam the button?
Yeah.
Or is this like okay.
Yeah.
All
It's
right.
very much like, but she's a little bit more reserved with it. So it's more of like, before you choose to send me yet another one of your condescending messages, you do well to remember that I'm a grown woman now, and it would behoove you to not speak to me like I am still 12. Give my love to father and my brother. And I hope you have a wonderful day and happy birthday for next, 'cause I know it's in a couple of days.
Right. Okay. And what language are you speaking when you're doing this? Are you speaking the sort of like
probably Punjabi.
Imperial? Okay, I was gonna say, yeah, whether you're speaking the Imperial language or you're speaking like
Mhm.
another. Okay, so you're all right. So your passive aggressive, fuck you, happy birthday is in Punjabi. That's important.
Yeah.
And then you hit transmit, and
Yeah.
and the Prism system packages up your data and fires it off to the nearest comm satellite.
Mhm.
Describe your character and your room. Like, what do we see? Like, because I imagine you finish the thing and then like sit down
Yeah.
on your bed. Like that's done.
Yeah.
But what do we see around you, and what does the Emira look like?
So the Amira has her hair is always like pulled back into a long braid, but she kind of like teases it in the front, so it's got like a lot of volume and it's French braided back. Um, and she's wearing blue, and she's dressed in very typical like Punjabi garb. So her pants are like very tight and like almost ruffled around the ankles, if that makes sense. Like they gather, but the top
Mhm.
is like form fitting until it hits about the waist and then it comes out at like a really extreme angle. She's wearing like several bangles on both of her arms. And her room is decked in colors. It's very gaudy, maroon and gold. And on all of her walls, she has 10 portraits of 10 like prophets that have been hung up. And so they're like all paintings done in the conventional fashion because the Amira enjoys conventional art.
Right. Okay. It's a really stark contrast to Booker's kind of stark soldier room, and then yours is very lush and like bright, lots of
Yes,
color. Cool.
extra AF, as the kids would say these days.
Fantastic. So so what do you do when we see you finish this angry letter to mom, and then
Mhm.
what? What are you gonna get up to?
Um, she sort of like plops down for a moment on like a little settee or whatever and starts going through her compad to see like what she's up to today or to see what's on her agenda. And being kind of upset because her mom really does get on her nerves. She like gets up and decides to like sort of get it out. And she kind of
Mm.
like shakes it out as she opens up. Oh, accidentally shook my camera. Shakes it out as she like opens up her door and is just like, God, that woman gets under my skin and just like walks out into the hall to find something else to do.
Okay. What do you? I mean, what do you do to de-stress? Like the ship has like a gymnasium that you could use. Do you go and like spar with someone? Do you like what is it that when you're worked up like this, what helps
Mhm.
disperse that energy?
Um, she would probably go to the bar and enjoy a nice glass of the what is it, the Arthashbad whiskey,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
probably read something.
Right. Okay.
Maybe
Cool.
read the paper. Well,
Okay.
digitally. Read the
Sure.
news.
Read the news feed. Okay, cool. So you take your pad with you and you head for the ship's I don't know what they would call it a bar, but whatever the ship bar is,
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
place where people go to drink on the ship. Okay, cool. All right. So you head that way, and I think we stay with you, and we follow you through the halls of the Prudence. Various officers giving you look. No one salutes you because you're not part of the sort of military hierarchy for these guys, but they recognize you. You've been around a little while. And yeah, and you make your way into this space. So you come out into the bar, and I think we get a look around. There's a few people. Like the ship is big enough that there's always like a dozen people in here after their shift, kind of just sitting and drinking, talking. It's quiet, relatively dark. There's a viewport that gives you a nice view of the planet below. You can see right now the convict moon is in rise, and we see Hyra down below out the window. And there are a couple of
Mhm.
people, and there's this vibe on the ship right now of homecoming, of return, right? Even though people don't necessarily get shore leave to go down to Hyra, it's nice being in system. It's nice being able to look down and be like, yeah, that's where we're from. So there's this sense of
Mhm.
kind of patriotism and like happiness at returning home on the ship. Lots of that vibe, which kind of makes you a bit of an outsider because this is not your home planet. You don't get to
No.
share that
Yeah.
with the crew. This is a different world. But you're not the only outsider in this bar. The only other person who's here alone. There's a couple of clusters of crooks, like officers and technicians, hanging out. The only other person who's here alone is this weird Lyran that the ship picked up, which is weird. It's funny because the ship already had a weird Lyran, and now you have two. They seem to be multiplying. But it's not Nicola. We haven't seen her in a while. It's someone else, and maybe you've seen. This is up to you and Kate to decide. But have you seen Lilith around before?
Maybe I have, but I probably didn't take particular note of her. Kieran would probably be the type to confuse both Lyrans and think they're the same because she has a very like cursory glance at people. She tends to file people away into categories. So because poor Lilith would probably be classified in the same like category as Nicola, as like weird Lyran. And that's like that's what she sees is a floating weird Lyran. And so
it's unless they're conducting a funeral or there's part of some kind of like artistic endeavor, Lyrans tend to be like ghosts, right? They're like, what do we? It's weird having them around because you usually only see them at funerals, and they tend to get lumped together, and that I think that's reasonable. So you see a Lyran, and you're like, is that which one is that? I don't. Okay, as you come in, tell us, okay, what does Lilith look like? What is she doing? And what's kind of her general vibe in this situation? So you're in the ship's bar, and what do we see?
Okay, so her hair is pulled back into kind of a messy bun, and she's got little pieces coming down around her face. She's wearing all black, but kind of different textiles, different textures, different layers. She's got a big cowl neck for her top. And she has this little almost utility belt, I'd say, with a little notebook that you'll see her writing in sometimes. You don't actually know what she's writing down. She's just taking notes. She doesn't have any jewelry except this one necklace that she wears. And when she's nervous, you'll see her kind of holding on to the gem. It's like a crystal almost. And she'll just be sort of playing with it a little bit. And when the Amira finds me or looks at me, I'm sitting eating a little bowl of bread, just very quietly, kind of taking note of my surroundings.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So your gaze passes over her. Kiran, do we want to stick with you because you're going to go and drink and read the news? So maybe this is when the camera like detaches from you and we stick with Lilith for a minute. Okay, cool. So yeah, we see you pass by and go up to the bar to requisition yourself a drink. And so Lilith, you're like at this table by yourself. What are you doing right now? Are you just like observing the rest of the crew and taking notes, or like when we get a little closer to you?
Yeah, I think I'm like I said, kind of just surveying what's going on, taking note of like who's around, and hoping desperately that the chaplain comes in at some point, because I think I'm aware of I'm aware of him on the ship, but I haven't seen him or had the chance to speak to him yet. So I'm just kind of like awkwardly there eating my bread, taking note of who else
So
is on the
you
ship.
know that he's here, but you haven't I want to go find him and talk to him myself.
Well, I'm very awkward, so I'm hoping that it's just like a chance encounter that like, oh, maybe he'll come in here too. And oh gosh, I'm also here. What are the chances? So just being very quiet and kind of keeping to myself at this point.
Okay. Well, your keeping to yourself is interrupted. Three Crux officers. You can see them. They're having a conversation, and they're like obviously looking at you, and then going back to talking to each other, and then looking at you, and then they start walking towards you.
It's my worst fear.
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
Well, at this point, then I'm definitely holding my necklace. So I don't know if they can tell that I'm nervous or whatever, but I'm holding my necklace.
They don't know enough about you to know that that's like a thing. They're just like, let's go and talk to the weirdo.
Okay, so I'm playing with it and kind of just trying to keep my head down and keep trying to just shove pieces of bread in my mouth so that maybe they won't speak to me.
Yeah, they definitely are walking directly towards you.
Shove more bread into my mouth.
Your mouth is very full.
My mouth is very full. Yeah.
Okay, so they're the group of them. It's two women and a man. They have their kind of casual like uniform on. They're off duty, and you can see they have name tags. So their names are the two women are Officer Arnahan, Officer Hibbert. The man is Officer Blackman, and the three of them walk over, and Arnahan. She looks down at you, and she's got quite a severe face. She's got her hair pulled back in a bun. She looks like she might be a like a member of the bridge crew or like a deck officer or something. And so she walks over to you and looks at the table, and she says, "Is anyone sitting here?"
And through my mouth full of bread, I try desperately to say yes, but then crumbs fly out all over the place. So
Okay.
I think they just assume that it's free.
She's already doing the Riker where she's putting one leg over the chair as she turns it around to sit down at the table with you.
Exactly.
She was not waiting for an answer to that question. So so Arnahan sits down. Blackman and Hibbert both kind of like stand behind her, and she says, "You know, we noticed you over here sitting by yourself. It's not the first time. You're in here alone a lot, aren't you?"
Yeah, I am. I prefer it that way.
Right. Well, we're a crew, and if you're going to be on our ship, it's only right we get to know each other a little bit, don't you think?
I suppose so.
And she looks at her friends, and they're kind of like nodding along, like, "Yeah, that seems good. We're friendly. We just want to be friends." And she says, "So, stranger, what's your name?"
Lilith.
Lilith. Lilith, what?
It's just Lilith.
Hey, but you're not just Lilith. You're not some peasant, are you? I mean, look at the way you're dressed.
I have a last name. I just don't think anybody needs to know what it is right now.
And she makes this show of like leaning back, kind of like she's hurt. Like she's like, "What? Well, see, I was just trying to be friendly. See, it's easy." And she puts a hand out. She's like, "I'm Officer Arnahan." Do
I
you
reach
shake
out
her
and I
hand?
take the hand. Yeah.
Okay. How's your handshake? Does she just kind of like waggle your arm around, or?
Yeah, mine's a firm handshake, but hers is a lot firmer.
Yeah, and this is one of those like she's squeezing your squeezing your hand a little bit.
Trying to like show dominance over me.
Yeah, and and she says, "These are my friends, Officer Hibbert, Officer Blackman," and they both kind of give you a curt nod, and she says, "So we were wondering, since you've been so mysterious and all, everyone on the ship has a purpose. So I'm an officer on the bridge, and Blackman's in ops, and Hibbert's in engineering. So, what is it exactly that you do, Lilith?"
I don't do much of anything. I'm
She
looking for
scowls.
something to do.
Yeah, and she scowls and she says, "Well, if you need anybody to bury a body, we'll let you know." And they kind of like laugh, and she says, "Oh wait, unless you'd like to paint us a painting or maybe sing us a song, you play a musical instrument, Lilith."
I do actually. I play the hurdy-gurdy.
Right, and so they start laughing, and she's like, "Oh, I do you? Oh, we'd love to hear it. Why don't you go and get it right now? You could play it for everyone. Wouldn't that be nice?"
So I like reach under the table and I just happen to
Huh.
have it with me.
Okay, sure.
Don't go
Yeah.
anywhere without my hurdy-gurdy.
Okay.
It was passed
and-
down from my family.
Yeah, so you take out your musical instrument, and her Arnahan's her voice, she's speaking loud enough to try to get everyone else's attention. So Kidon, you and everyone else in the bar, you can hear Arnahan doing like the loud voice a little bit. She's trying to get everybody to pay attention to the fact that they're like antagonizing this Lyran. So when you hear that, what do you do? Is this just like a roll your eyes and go back to reading thing, or do you pay closer attention?
Well, I
Well,
think
I don't
it's...
really like.
Oh, sorry.
I think
Go for it.
yeah. Well, I don't really like disturbances. So
Mhm.
I'd probably raise an eyebrow, look up from, what I'm reading and be like, "Officers, I feel like high school was long and done a while ago, so why don't you take your little hazing elsewhere, yeah?"
And Arnahan looks up and squints at you. I mean, let's see how it goes. Let's have you make a roll.
Oh
So
Ooh,
god.
you,
initiative. Good
yeah.
fight.
Listen, we said this was gonna
your
be
mom
high school.
sucks.
High school on the spaceship. So, yeah, let's have you roll. I think this is going to be a talk roll. You're trying to convince them
Okay.
to like back off.
All right.
Okay, and I'm gonna make it difficulty because they're in a group and you're already kind of an outsider, right? Like you're likely
Yeah.
to just attract their ire yourself.
Mhm.
So maybe give yourself like a -1 to the roll
Okay.
when it asks you for a fire.
Boo.
Okay, all
I
right.
would have
Short one.
succeeded without that -1.
That's
Yeah.
right. So Arnahan looks up when you say that, and she's like, "Oh, well, look!" And she looks at you, Lil. She's like, "Look, you got a friend. Looks like the Valen has something to say. You have something to say, Navigatrix."
Navigatrix. Yeah, I do have something to say, and I believe you heard me. You're being quite loud, so if you want to bully the little Lyran, please do so elsewhere. Yes?
And she scowls and says, "Hey, you can't talk to me like that. This is my ship, not yours. We've already got a Valen. I thought we already had a Lyran too. We're picking up lesser houses everywhere we go."
Oh, lesser house, is that so? Well, maybe your little uppity attitude flies typically, but it won't be flying in this case. So please get into your pissing contest elsewhere and move along.
And she points at the window where you can see Hyra in the distance, and she says, "You know what planet that is, don't you?"
Did I stutter?
And she says, "I asked you a question, Valen."
Did I stutter?
And she stands up. You hear the chair squeak across the floor. She looks at you and she's like, "You taking the piss? You want to make this into something?" And
Oh, we're
takes
gonna
an
have a
aggressive
nice little
step
scrap,
towards
are
you.
we?
You gonna make fun of her accent now?
Yeah. Except
Good.
I have no idea how to do that accent, so instead I'm gonna whip out a British accent.
British accent.
Hello, governor.
That would be very offensive to someone from Scotland. So yeah, that works really well.
Yeah, it would have really been offensive.
I
It
would
would
know
have
the
been really
difference. I
offensive
speak
to yeah,
Punjabi.
exactly. It would have been very offensive to her 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's just making
back-
fun of someone.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Is like it's just a bad impression. Like, because
Yeah.
she doesn't know her accent is Scottish. Nobody knows what
Yeah.
Scotland is.
No,
That's not
yeah,
a
there's
thing
no way
anymore.
there's no way that my character would know that. So to her, it's all the same.
That was more for the
Yeah.
people in chat that are going to be like,
Exactly. Yeah. Context.
all the Scots in chat.
Yeah, context. Exactly. We don't know who the angles are. So she you like try to mock her. What is your intent here? Do you want her to like get mad or what? Because you've definitely succeeded in deflecting her attention away. Actually, I want to give Lilith an opportunity here. So the Amira, this Valen, has definitely drawn the ire of your bullies away from you. What do you want to do? You're like holding your hurdy-gurdy.
Hurdy-gurdy in one hand, notebook in the
Yeah.
other hand, and I think Lilith looks at Kieran and just mouths "thank you," and
Yeah.
then writes something quickly in my notebook, closes it, puts it in my little pouch, and then I kind of try to scurry away as quickly as possible.
Yeah, you want to leave? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. I like this. Like you look at her like, "Thank you. I'm gonna go. Have fun."
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
let's.
I mean,
let's see
Kieran
if you
can obviously take it.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Well,
So let's have you slip away. So you're gonna make a sneak check. So on your character sheet, you can just click on sneak. If it asks you for a modifier, keep it a 0. If it asks you for a stat, you're gonna roll with your dexterity.
This is how new at this I am, chat.
It's okay. Yeah.
Oh,
Just
that's
pop that
okay.
character sheet
Everyone's
open
learning.
under skills. Yeah, you did it. Okay. All right. So, I mean, I think the conditional success here is just that, like, you put all of the negative attention on the Amira, right? So you slip away. And I don't know. Do you think you would notice that, Kiran, or does she just
Oh yeah, for
vanish
sure.
from your sight? Yeah.
No, I'd probably see her sneaking off
Okay.
or make a
So
mental note of it.
so Arnahan gets up in your face, and she's kind of doing that thing where she's like in your personal space, and she says, "You have a problem? You have a problem with me? Hmm?" Like, just trying to provoke you.
Right. I'm still sitting and drinking my whiskey.
Yeah, and she's trying to
And,
get you to stand up and like.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's not going to happen. And I look up at her and I'm just like, Officer Arnahan, no, I don't have a problem with you. I merely had a problem with the ruckus you were creating at the table next door. And given that the Lyran in question has excused herself from the situation, I think you and I are quite all right. I'm going to go back to my paper, seeing as now I can read in peace.
Okay. Let's have you make another talk roll. Let's see if you can diffuse her against you. In this case, Blackman and Hibbert are less interested in, like, they're not backing her up quite so hard now. So you just roll flat. You don't have the -1.
Oh God.
Oh no.
Okay. She knocks your drink out of your hand because you turn away from her. You're like, I'm quite done with you, and she's like, you're done with me when I say you are, and she like slaps the drink out of your hand.
Okay.
Children. Audrey's very sad.
I'm gonna put the glass, or actually, the drink went flying. I'm gonna go ahead and
she
wipe.
doesn't punch it out of your hand, but she just hits it so it like falls and like spills on the table.
Right. I'm gonna, go ahead and just kind of push the water, or the fluid, make sure it doesn't drip onto my lap, and meet her gaze once again, and I'll be like, feeling better? Is there anything else I can help you with? Have you gotten it all out of your system?
I
don't know what you want from me. If you're looking for a fight, I'm just quite not that juvenile. If you'd like to have a chat, however, I'll have the bartender bring over a couple more drinks and we can resolve this like adults.
And I think Blackman has come over and he puts his hand on Arnahan's shoulder, and he's like, "Come on, Arnahan, let's go." And Arnahan's just like scowling at you, and she shakes her head, and she's just like, these fucking houses, disrespect. You spend decades fighting wars for them, and this is how they repay you. And she kind of like shrugs, and she's just like, fucking Valens. And Blackman gives you a look like, I'm sorry, she's a dick, and like kind of guides her away.
Smile at him knowingly or appreciatively.
Yeah, and he kind of is just like, I think he probably passes her off to Hibbert, and Hibbert is like, come on, let's go back and finish our game. Like they were playing some kind of like tabletop thing. And Blackman, he says to you, he's like, I'm sorry, Amira. She's it's hard being home. She lost people on Gats.
It's quite all right. Emotions are running high on board today. It's too bad. I always thought she was kind of cute. I like him feisty. Thank you so much. I'm gonna give him a little pat on the arm.
Yeah. He went from being like on your team to being confused about what's happening now because he's like, no, I was just trying to. Okay, we're gonna go. Now I'm weirded out by you. I'm gonna go. But it was good. You get them all away from you, and they go back to
working as intended.
Yeah, they go back to playing their game of Lost Houses, and so we cut back to the hallway, where Lilith, you have escaped. You've escaped that tense situation. Where do you go? You've got your stuff in your hands, and
I think I just kind of start wandering at this point, and I made a note to find the Amira afterwards and thank her.
Find her. find her later.
Exactly.
cool.
But not until the officers are gone. I don't want any part in that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we could do it. We can do a scene with the two of you, like later on. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you have no particular destination, I think that we
No.
we probably don't stick with you. You slip away, and it's fairly easy for you to go unnoticed on this ship. You can kind of just like wander as you please. So maybe then we cut over to dinner at the Richter's quarters.
Okay.
So
Jumping straight in there.
Yeah, so the Richter, like unless Booker or the chaplain, unless either of you have something that you want to do before dinner, you could do that. But I think we could just jump to it if you want.
If Max has got something, do you have anything, Max?
Nope.
No. Yeah, I'd like to actually go to the Richter's office like several hours before the dinner, and try and speak to him privately.
Yeah, of course. Okay. Yeah, I think that's certainly possible. You want to go to because he has an apartment. He has like a proper he's a big deal. He's like the second most important or most important person on the ship. So he has like a suite with several rooms. He has a separate office elsewhere on the ship where he would be while his servants are setting up his quarters. So yeah, you want to meet him in his office?
Yeah, like several hours before the dinner, kind of like meet him in a kind of more of an official kind of situation.
Okay. All right. So yeah, so you go to the Richter's office. You talk with his secretary and he sends you in. And so you walk in.
It will only take a short amount of his time, so.
Yeah, and the Richter has this kind of like his office has a bit of a deconstructed hunting lodge kind of vibe to it. It's a very popular aesthetic among certain sort of rugged crux folk. It's all like dark synthetic dark wood. There is a display, one of those sort of fake hollow windows, very high quality of an alpine kind of big mountains with snow blowing. He keeps the temperature pretty low. There's probably a stuffed an elk's head on the wall or something. But he's got this big slate desk with his various computer terminals on it. And when you come in, you see him just finishing up some paperwork, which he files. So he swipes it away and he looks up and he stands when you come in. He gives you a short bow and he says, "I wasn't expecting to see you until dinner, Chaplain. It's a pleasure."
I take a very deep bow, like a very, very respectful kind of deep bow. My sincerest apologies for troubling you, Richter. I wanted to come and speak to you a little before the dinner. I was wondering. I understand that I am to be placed within a certain group that performs various missions for House Crux, very important missions for the houses and for Emperor and for God. Do you happen? I have obviously heard some of the details of what happened with Agent Graves, Sergeant Ibanez, and Ceres Carr's previous mission. I was wondering, do you have files on themselves or the mission that I can browse before the dinner?
And he kind of he's listening and nodding, and he smiles. He says, "You're very thorough. I'm impressed."
Diligence is, of course, a virtue, Richter. I endeavor to be the best chaplain that I can be.
We have legal files, mission files, which I'm sure you are cleared for. They should be accessible in your personal database in the system, but you could have gotten those off of the computer. You're here, I think, for more a personal opinion about the people you're going to be working with.
I nod and smile and just say,
Yeah.
"You are very wise, Richter. Yes, I'm sorry to phrase it in such a manner, but yes, I would very much like to hear your personal opinion, especially concerning the 3 survivors in particular. I am concerned for all of them."
Well, have a seat, Chaplain.
Thank you, Richter. Thank you.
He sits back down because he stood when you came in, and he says, "Troubling what happened on Honglu. It's a shame how Cygnus mishandled the planet so deeply. We have not had time to untangle that knot, and there are layers of the insurgencies there that we do not yet understand. But
It's quite impressive how dark things can become out of God's sight.
yes. Well, if it were up to me, we would have taken a more severe approach, but we only have so many ships, and well, you deal with the problems you have in your backyard before you go looking for problems down the block. And of course, he's referring to Crux's very aggressive handling of the Cygnus homeworld, which is like literally right now next door to where you are.
Mhm.
And you know, like historically, there was some debate about what to do about Honglu once, like, because it was a Crux factory planet or a Cygnus factory planet. So there was some talk in House Crux, like, yeah, maybe we should also blow it up with bombs, but never quite got around to that. And he says, but you're not here for a history lesson. I think you're here to talk about Officer Greaves. You don't have to worry about the Cirrus. Nomika is a loyal servant of the Empire. She's at home right now on Hroa, undergoing some training, I understand.
I see. Very good.
I trust her as much as one can. These members of the minor houses, they are ambitious, always grasping for more than they have. They don't understand their place in things, but she,
And
I think, is a good one.
Good. Excellent. And you believe that, my understanding is that perhaps she is to be placed in charge or authority in future missions. Is that correct still?
Yes, I have processed her for a promotion. Her and Officer Ibanez, who I think you will find somewhat more difficult to work with. He and Officer Greaves have a history.
I see. Are we talking violence or simply differences of opinion?
Well, as you must know, a difference of opinion can turn to violence quite quickly. I don't think that the two of them are going to try and kill each other. I hope that both of them will respect the hierarchy, but there has been a shift, and when these things happen, there's always some distress.
And do you think, how do you feel that Officer Ibanez, Sergeant Ibanez, I should know, my apologies, do you feel that is there been any show in his personality since he returned? From the official reports, it seemed like he was quite successful, but he was previously untested before this mission, am I led to believe. That can be quite difficult for a young man to face such circumstance.
The Kriegsherr has pedigree. His family is very important to my house. They are positioned strongly. I believe that they put him here to test him, and so far he has proven out. He's willing to commit in ways that I think some officers are unable. This is a useful talent, but well, we shall see.
Very good, excellent. And of course, the subject matter close at hand, Officer Graves himself.
I have had my doubts about Officer Graves. He is unstable. He gets things done. You must have seen his records. He's retired many illegal synthetics. He's good at that. He is a hound. You give him meat and he will chew it. But anything requiring command, I don't know how much I trust him. This is why I'm putting the Cirrus in charge. He may take umbrage at this change, but well, his discipline is what is in question.
Do you believe this to be a problem with discipline to yourself, to House Crux, or to the Empire? This is very important for me to know, so I can try and steer him back into the God's light.
In my mind, all three are the same. House Crux, myself, the Empire, we all serve the same goal. Protection of humanity. In this, I think you and I are aligned, Chaplain.
Of course, Richter. However, I am familiar that sometimes individuals, they can struggle to combine them as you and I do. They do not see all the three together. It could be that perhaps this Officer Graves, his struggle perhaps may be more with yourself or House Crux rather than the Empire as a whole. this is where he is flawed and must be re-educated, of course, but it is useful for me to know. But if you think that it is all three, then so be it. I can work with this.
Officer Greaves has spent time in the hands of insurgents. The House has given him the go-ahead to continue working, but I must tell you, Chaplain, I worry that he has been co-opted. I hope that you will keep an eye on him, at least until the Cirrus returns. And then the three of us can have a conversation about what is to be done about Officer Greaves.
Of course, Richter. My duty is here to help guide God's children and to serve the Empire in its great manage and to bring the light of the 10 blessings to all of the members of the Prudence. I will do this. Thank you so much for your time. I just wish to get your personal opinion before dinner. I look forward to it. Thank you so much for inviting me, Richter. It is quite an honor.
Of course. The chaplain speaks highly of you. I look forward to our working together. And he stands up, like, conversation's over, time to go, but politely.
Yeah, I do the same thing, and I deeply bow and, excuse myself. Thank you. I will see you later, Richter. Thank you once again for your time. 10 blessings. And then I leave.
Yeah, cool. All right, so you head out. Thank you, Mark, for playing accent chicken with me. I feel like if that conversation had gone on much longer, we would just both end up Transylvanian. So, like, the German gets more Italian and the Italian gets more German. Eventually, we both are just Dracula. So good on that. Thank you.
It is Graves.
They're both Italo-German.
There is a slight Transylvanian to me, so just bear with it. Italian is not a very good one, but
yeah. All right, cool. So.
Better.
Yeah, so you head out and are sort of prepared for dinner.
Yeah, and I'll probably read through the public reports one more time just before the dinner, just so I'm aware of what was filed.
Yeah. Okay. Well, why don't you let's do that. Let's make it a roll. Why don't you make a no roll? Let's see, because you're basically reading all the material, but you're looking for not just what's written there, but maybe like what you could find between the lines.
So could that be notice instead, rather than no?
Yeah, totally. Notice with intelligence. Yeah, that makes sense.
Notice with intelligence.
It's not about what you know. It's about using your
picking up on the reading between the lines.
I
cool.
like it.
Also, I have a 0 in notice.
Yeah.
Hey.
Okay. All right. So I think the subtext that you pick up on is mostly that, like, you get the people that filed the mission report were Nomi and Yancey, right? So anything that happened that they were not witness to doesn't make it into the report. Booker filed a report, but it's currently not accessible to you. There is a higher branch of House Crux that is like, we're gonna process this first in case there's any like sensitive information or whatever that isn't added to your accessibility to the file. You might be able to get a hold of it later, but right now it wasn't given to you. So what you get is from the Richter's office. It's a slightly redacted version of Nomi and Yancey's report, basically just telling you, like, talking about how they were there to investigate a kidnapping. It turned out that the person who was kidnapped was killed, and the person responsible for it was delivered in unto Crux justice, summarily executed for their crimes. And then there was some problems extracting from the planet, which Yancey and Nomi solved for themselves. The report does indicate that like posthumously, Jason Argus was given like a medal, essentially. Like there was a posthumous medal of valor, given for his actions on the planet. There is reference to a resource, but Lamar Riley is never mentioned by name.
Just an acre resource.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's like billing, where basically Acre was paid for Riley's life. Basically, like, sorry, we broke your equipment, but there was insurance, so House Crux didn't actually, like, it was underwritten by Acre's Insurance Corporation, and they're fine. Like, it just it's some numbers on a list. And and that's pretty much the thing. There's a personnel file on Booker, but it is. I'll let Max give you an impression. Not of like, we don't need Max. I don't need you to tell me like Booker was born here and then lived here and did this. But what would the impression that Chaplain Valencia get of Booker be if he were to read a personnel file that would be made available to him? What do you think?
somebody with a long service record got into the military branch of House Crux early on by his family, from a family of nobles. They believed it was best to keep him busy in the military, otherwise he would be causing trouble amongst his own house. He was always too curious for his own good. Yeah, but as far as his career goes, very, very aggressive in his youth, very, very gung-ho, infinitely focused to the task that he's put on. And then go, fast forwarding more through his a little bit more questioning the assignment that he's on, asking different questions that he wouldn't have asked otherwise. It's been particularly noted in his file, this change, and to keep an eye, I guess, for that. But otherwise reliable and kind of mirroring what the Richter said before. There's a couple different incidences that of like, particular note where it's like, oh shit, you did that, that kind of deal.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Top stuff.
All right. So you have a pretty good idea of kind of like how the mission went and some idea about
But not this part that Nomi and Yancy weren't there for. So basically, as soon as they left the roof, there's like nothing about that part.
Yeah, and we'll wait until Nomi is back. And we'll ask her, like, how'd you spin this? Because Yancey's report was like, Yancey was great. He killed all the bad guys single-handedly. Jason was also there, but then Jason died. Too bad for him. But yeah, it's pretty Yancey centric. He managed to spin the story in a way that got him a promotion. So
yeah, I'm guessing there's Holtzman and Ramirez. They're in there, right? And
yes, also posthumously honored for their attempt to save a life. There's probably like a note in there as well from the House Vela who originally like put out the word to get you this up. Who like she left like a personal note of thanks and likely like contributed something to the funeral or something. But yeah, to show her respect for like you were out there trying to get my son-in-law. Yeah, cool. Okay, so you get that info. So I think Max, you said you didn't. There's no pre-dinner stuff you want to do. Okay.
No, I think Booker's he's kind of a bit reserved and just contemplating things in his own. I won't admit it to himself, but he's a little not scared, but apprehensive to wander around the ship again, coming back. And he's a little curious as to how much people know about what happened. Shipwide.
Yeah, I like it.
His news travels, regardless of whether or not it's classified.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it feels a little weird to be back. Okay. All right. So I think the shot then fades from the chaplain reading in his room to Lilith. And Lilith, what part of the ship are you in when we fade back to you? You've wandered around. Where do you find yourself?
I kind of find myself maybe sitting and looking out of a window. Sorry if there's cat sounds. She's very needy.
There's a cat next to you.
It's cool. I was gonna say, does Lilith have any pets? Like, are you in your room?
Have like a cat familiar?
Is it so? The question becomes: is it a real cat, or is it like a How rich are you, or how rich is your family? Is it a synthetic cat or a real one?
Synth.
Okay, synth cat. There we go.
I mean, it's so the thing is like. House Cygnus, like they made synthetic animals, and people still do. Like Trilliant makes them. You can get like genetically engineered animals because they're not a crime against humanity in the way that fake humans were. So you could have like a perfectly genetically engineered cat pet if you want.
Okay, I like that.
Cool. Yeah. All right. So you're just like, have you gone and gotten your cat and you're carrying it around the halls, or are you in your room?
It's following near me.
Okay.
It just always follows me.
Okay, and so you've stopped somewhere to like look out the window?
Yeah, contemplating.
Okay. All right. So you're staring out the window, and we're seeing this shot that's both of your face and the reflection of your face, and then the stars outside, and you can see glittering faintly in the distance the green dot that is the planet Gats, and I think you hear you hear a faint like whispering, like someone whispering something behind you. What do you do?
I think I casually turn around to try to not get
Okay.
noticed that I'm trying to eavesdrop, but I'm trying to collect as much intel as I can at this point.
So you turn around, and the hallway is empty. There's no one around, but you definitely heard something.
That's
So you
not
just
good.
turn and you look, and yeah, you just heard this like this whispering, and there doesn't look like there's anyone around.
Are there any like offshoots of the hallway?
Yeah, you're standing at
connecting
a like a
hallways?
you're standing at a curve of the hallway. There aren't any doors in this area, but yeah, you heard a whispering.
So being as inquisitive, I think, as I am, maybe I try to sneak down the hall, maybe around the corner, try to see if there's anybody who might be like
Okay.
following or looking.
Yeah. Just like go investigate. Okay, yeah. You take a few
Yeah.
steps down the hall, like peer around the corner, and you can see down this hallway leads to like a lift junction, but there's no one in the hall. Like maybe weirdly so. Like you'd expect to see somebody, right?
I would expect that, yes.
Yeah. So you look down like this. It's a big ship, but not so big that there's like dramatically empty hallways. You don't see anyone. You look all the way down to the lift junction, and there's nobody. Nobody in the
Hmm.
hall.
Turn around, go the other way.
Okay. Yeah, same thing. I mean, this hall leads to like a T intersection, and it seems like pretty empty.
I think at this point, I call out, "Is anybody there?"
You hear the whispering behind you again.
So I'm going insane, is what's happening.
I mean, I don't know. You want to turn? You like turn around. There's nobody there.
I feel like I would really, really want to find what was going on.
Yeah.
Maybe I call
yeah.
out again. Is anybody there?
Okay. All right. Can you make a? I need you to make a saving throw for me. So if you pop your character sheet open, and where it says saving throws mental, you click on that for me.
I need to move my cat real quick. She's sitting on
Okay.
top of my mouse. I'm
You
sorry.
hear a siren also.
Girl. Yeah, sorry.
Randomly.
I mean,
Okay,
you're
where
on
am
a
I doing this?
space police ship, so yeah,
So
probably.
that makes sense.
The lives of 4 Crux officers coming to you live. This season on Prism, Crux.
So
Bad boy.
I was about to say it's got a bad space
sense.
reggae. Yeah, you can tell it's
Bad
sci-fi
sense,
because
bad sense.
it's a dubstep remake of the
Of course.
of the cops theme. Okay, yeah. So mental effect save. It's going to be in the top kind of right part of your character sheet. It'll say a number, V something.
I
You just click
just clicked 2 things that I probably didn't mean to do.
on. That's okay. Nothing happened. Let me take a look.
2 things popped up in the thing. Oh, on my end, maybe not on your end.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. So saving throws.
Yeah, saving throws, and then where it says mental,
Yeah.
if you click that, it'll roll a save for you. There it is. Yeah. Okay. So you got a 16. So you you're still in control. You don't like lose it or anything, but you turn around and there's nothing there, and you walk a few steps down the hallway and you look, and it seems to be empty. And we see when you walk by, and Lilith doesn't notice this, but the shot as you walk by in profile, your reflection in the window isn't you. It's somebody else. It's someone with like darker skin. They're wearing a blue uniform, and the uniform has some kind of like Valen like insignia on it. And and that's instead of your reflection as you walk by. But you don't notice that, and you get to the lift junction, and you see the on either side there's 2 lift doors, and there's the controls to like call the lift.
I want to go up. Press one of
Okay.
the buttons.
Okay. Yeah. So you hit the button, and it pulses with light. There's a little like purple kind of like floor indicator, and you wait for the elevator to arrive. And as you watch it like ticking towards you, and as it approaches, you hear one more time. You hear the whispers, and this time they like say your name. You hear like Lilith behind you.
I think at this point I start screaming.
Okay, all right. So is this like clap your hands over your ears, fall to your knees, like kind of screaming, or just like your startled scream? Like what does that look like? What do we
I
see?
feel like it's still me calling out to see if this person or this voice or these whispers will respond to me. So I'm yelling out, "Who's there? Who's there? Like, show yourself."
Okay, all right. Yeah, so you spin around and you're yelling, and so when you turn to like look to see what's in here, we see behind you the door to the lift start to open, and inside the lift there is this like very very bright white light, like much brighter than the actual lighting in the lift is, and so you're silhouetted dramatically, like backlit from behind. You become this like shadow, and you see your shadow like hard on the wall in front of you when you turn around. What are you gonna do?
Despite everything my body is telling me to do, I
Yeah.
go towards the silhouette.
Okay. So do you want to turn around to look
Yeah.
at into the light?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you turn around and the light is like so bright that you're blinded for a second, and you have to like close your eyes, and then you hear the voice again, but louder this time. You hear, "Oh, Lilith, Lilith," and it slowly becomes normal. You can hear like Lilith, Lilith, and you can feel somebody like shaking you. And when you open your eyes, you see another young woman dressed kind of similarly to you, but more baroque. She has like a lace kind of like bodice, and then sort of semi like Victorian goth meets like World War I military uniform kind of thing going on. She has a veil over her face, but it's really thin, so you can see it. Underneath it, she's pale. She has like light, kind of amber eyes, long, flat black hair, and she's got you by your shoulders, and she's shaking you, and she's like, "Lilith, Lilith." What do you
My
do?
first instinct was just like smooch the girl, but I feel like that's not where we're going with this.
I mean, whatever.
Can I look? I, anyways. So I, I'm all flustered. So I'm awake now. So that was a dream.
You don't remember going to sleep or anything. You're standing in the same hallway, right? You're standing in the junction. There are a couple of sort of background crux people looking at you like
What the
kind of
hell?
weird.
Especially if I've been screaming this whole time.
Yeah, right. Definitely.
Yeah.
And so this woman, she's barely more than a girl. She's like maybe 20. She's like, "Hey, are you okay?"
I ask her, "How do you know my name?"
Okay, come here. And she grabs your hand and like pulls you into the lift.
Do we smooch then?
You're gonna want to play down the smooching in just a second. So the door closes,
Yeah.
and now that the two of you are alone, the it starts to lift, and she hits the stop button, and so it like jolts a little, and she's like, "How do I know you're?" Listen, it's hard enough for me to get them to take me seriously without you out there screaming randomly at elevators. She looks down and she says, "I'm Nicola." And
How do you know?
if you don't immediately like respond, she's like, "Lyra, Lynn, Nicola, I'm your
Name
cousin."
doesn't ring a bell.
She shakes her
Oh
head
yeah,
and she
maybe I don't
scoffs.
smooch her.
Yeah, right. And
Yeah.
she's like, "Listen, I mean, the nobility have a very liberal cousin smooching policy. Lots of people in the nobility are married to and have children with their cousins, but that's up to you to decide." Yeah,
I'm a hold off on
Liz.
the smooching.
That's right. Les cousins dangereux.
Yeah, no.
But so she looks at you like, "What do you mean you don't know who I am?" And she kind of like looks at how she's dressed and looks at how you're dressed. She's like, I've been avoiding you because I figured I didn't want everyone to see us together because it's bad enough for me on my own around here. But then I heard you screaming. Are you okay?
How did you know what ship I was on?
What do you mean?
Of
This
all the
is my
ships, how
ship.
did you know I was here?
Well, I mean, I listen. I hear them talking, and when people started gossiping about a Lyran on board, and I know it wasn't me, I figured. So I came looking, and here you are, standing in
Here
the
I
middle of a
am.
hallway, screaming your lungs out. What's wrong with you?
Didn't you hear the whispering? They were saying my name. Didn't you hear it?
Okay. So that's a way to answer that question. I'm gonna
Tell me
need
you
you
heard it.
to try to keep that quiet, especially around everyone else. This isn't really a safe place for you to go talking about the voices that you're hearing in your head.
But it wasn't voices, there was people. I just couldn't find them.
Okay, so you know that you sound crazy right now, right?
Yeah, I really do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Are you taking your medication? Did you forget? Do you need extra? I can give you some of mine.
It would be nice, yeah. I've been out for a
Okay.
while.
So, come with me. And she hits the button again, and so the two of you are riding the lift. And she says, "So, what are you doing on the Prudence? Did you get assigned here?
I'm looking for someone. Or maybe I'm looking for something, but I'm definitely looking for someone.
Do you know any more about this person? Are they real, or are they, you know,
They're
a voice in your head?"
they're new. They're new here. They're
Okay.
vaguely Mediterranean. And I think they're named Chaplain. Chaplain Valencia, perhaps?
And
I've heard people talking about him.
she nods and she says, "Right, the priest, because we needed another one of those." Yeah, he was assigned to the ship a little while ago. Why do you need to see the priest?
I just feel like I need to talk to him. Been feeling like that for a long time.
Okay. Well, how about this? We're going to go back to my quarters and I'm going to get you some more medication and then we'll have a little sit down. And when you're feeling a little less bananas, I can take you to meet the chaplain if you want.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay. All right. And
Thank
she
you.
kind of gives you like a pat on the shoulder. And you get this impression that in a way she's kind of treating you like you're like a little sister, right? And she's also kind of like, thank goodness that you're weirder than me because now maybe they'll pick on you instead, right? Maybe there's someone stranger than I am.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So there's silence. She kind of is like, okay, I can take care of you. I know what to do with you now. I have something I can do, and yeah, and so she kind of goes quiet, and you ride out the rest of the lift ride in relative silence. So let's cut to the dinner. Let's jump to that. So later, probably while you're getting Lilith, you're getting taken care of by cousin Nicola. The chaplain Valencia, Booker, and the Kriegsherr Ibanez are all having dinner in the Richter's apartments. So the Richter's apartment is it's fairly Spartan, but a little more sentimental. There is a like a battered, slightly burnt crux like war banner pinned up on the wall. He's got a laser rifle mounted above it. The furniture and everything in here is either like dark wood or brushed steel. There is an actual honest to god viewport, and you can see right now, you can see Hyra. In fact, the ship is probably orbiting such that the Richter's apartment always points at the planet. And I think there's probably some kind of like quiet chamber music being played from his sound system. The Richter has like a staff. He has like 3 or 4 personal servants, like attendants. They are also dressed in the Crux purple and are expertly bringing food to the table and then disappearing out of view. And so I think that rather than like you all walk in and we have the preamble and like welcome to the dinner, yada yada yada, this is like partway through the like second course. All the pleasantries have been dispensed with. What is the topic of conversation at hand when we fade in on this this very classy dinner you're having?
Throw it over to Max, see if there's anything he wants. Because I have.
If you got it, yeah. If you have an idea where to.
No,
start.
I don't have an idea. That's the thing. So I don't
What are
know
we eating, Adam?
What are you eating?
Yeah.
I think you're probably it's probably like something hearty, right? Like you've done the first 2 courses, so it's probably some kind of like roast, like a pot roast, some kind of beef.
Okay. So yeah, that's where we're coming in on. Booker just like, I can't tell you how much you miss this when you don't have it for a long time.
And the Richter's nodding, like glad you're appreciating it. And he says, well, you know, I had, as soon as we knew we were going to come and pick you up, I sent ahead, had some things prepared. It won't last long once we're back on patrol, but well, it's nice to enjoy the comforts of home for a time, even if you can't visit it yourself.
It is quite excellent, Richter. I must. My greatest compliments. I have not enjoyed a feast of this nature since I was on Endofail. Is this typical Crux cuisine? I'm afraid to say I have not had the pleasure of enjoying it before. Is this something you would enjoy at home, Officer Greaves, Sergeant Ibanez?
And Ibanez turns to you, Booker, to be like, yeah, Booker. How was the? Actually, I think he says, did they keep you well fed at home while you were recuperating, Booker?
Yeah, we'd have some roast here and there. Maybe not every single day. No one wants that. Well, maybe my cousin. He ate a lot of. Not important. Yes.
You have to understand, Chaplain, that it's not every family that can afford to eat this well.
I look at Sergeant Ibanez like, well, of course. Like, there's a bit of a, of course, Sergeant Ibanez, I am very familiar. It is, I wasn't sure reading through Officer Graves, he seemed to have, your family seemed to be of good standard, and I was not sure how common this type of meal would have been. It is very different to what I enjoyed when I was a boy myself. Very different. But it is excellent food, and to enjoy something like this once in a while was truly be a treat. We are very blessed.
Yes, Booker, how is the family Greaves these days? Not suffering too much from their recent financial expenditures, I hope.
Oh, they're doing just fine.
That's good to hear. I understand that the ransom was quite expensive.
Well, I look at Yancey and I'm like, well, that surely shows that they have great virtue in charity then, Sergeant Ibanez. To pay so much to return a family member, that is truly a sign of God's love. And I go back to
That's the difference between House Crux and, say, Eridanus. We made this decision with our heart. Eridanus would make it with their pocketbooks. It's good to know that the family Greaves is willing to suffer for the return of their son.
Booker just like stares at him like with a big smile. And then it like for a moment, and then just goes back to just like
watch the exchange quite close.
On right there.
Yeah, I watched the exchange quite closely because I mean it's pretty obvious that he's antagonizing, right? I don't need to make a roll for anything like that.
I mean, you could make a notice roll with wisdom to kind of like you can ask me or Booker like questions like what do you really mean when you say that or whatever. Why don't you roll now and then you can kind of like spend your questions through the dinner.
Okay.
Oh my god, this is like It's like that scene in Final Fantasy VI where you have to have dinner with the Emperor and you have to say everything right, or else you get the bad ending. Okay, so you got an 8. Okay, so why don't you hold on to two questions,
Okay.
and then you can ask me or Max like as players, and we'll just tell you like what
Tell
the
you what
character is
you-
thinking or feeling.
Okay.
Yeah, totally. Give you a little access to that, the inner monologue. So yeah, so the there's that moment of tension, and Booker kind of doesn't take the bait or anything, goes back to eating, and and I think that Yancey says, so I have to ask, Officer Greaves, how was it on Honglu after we left? You know, the Cirrus and I, we would have come back for you, but you know, she insisted that we make the call that was right for the mission. We didn't want to jeopardize our success. You understand, of course, we thought you were dead already.
Oh yeah, I'm sure she did. It was great. Sponge baths. Sponge baths. All I could ask for food. A lot of reading material, actually. Pretty good.
He's like, I know you're fucking with me. Like, obviously you're fucking with me. And he says, well, it's good to keep a sense of humor about these things. I hear that it can be quite traumatizing. That is why you didn't come back to duty right away, isn't it? You're 2 weeks on Hyra? Rest and recovery?
Wasn't my decision.
No, you don't have to make excuses, Booker. It's only proper that you were given time to recover. You're back in fighting shape.
I'm going to ask a question.
Yeah.
Do I get the sense, Space Master, that Yancey knows more about Booker's time off than he's giving away? Like, do I get the impression that he maybe had a hand in keeping him off the ship? Or is he just trying to rile him up?
He's just trying to make Booker embarrass himself in front of the Richter. And then this is both trying to goad Booker a little bit into saying something embarrassing, but also trying to reinforce to the Richter, like, yeah, he's soft and weak, right? Like,
Okay.
isn't he? And you get the impression that Yancey and the Richter have had conversations about Booker more than once.
Okay. I'll throw in, because like I like Booker's fortitude. It's very virtuous. So I want to try and be like, well, that does not seem to be in the character of Officer Graves, Sergeant Ibanez. I read his war file. He seems to be quite a fortuitous individual, very virtuous in that nature. It is no surprise that he wished to return to duty, but it is not uncommon, especially for officers that have been detained, to take some R&R. It is a very difficult situation, and I'm sure that the administration simply wished to make sure that Officer Graves was fighting fit to return to his glorious duty in God's name. But with a record like his, I'm not surprised. I'm surprised that he was not back shooting bad guys straight away.
And yeah, there's a chuckle, like, haha, shooting bad guys. That's what we do. Yep, only the bad guys. Just killing bad guys is our job. That's our thing. So there's a little chuckle at the table.
You know, live to serve and all that. I can only hope, Sergeant Ibanez, that you won't be befallen in such a similar scenario.
Of course, it would be awful.
Yeah, Ibanez says, Yancey says, I would die before I was captured by insurgents.
I'm sure you would.
Scowl. Yeah, and the
Why Booker
Richter
says that too is like, I'm sure
Right,
you
like-
would, as in like, because you suck and you die on duty.
yeah, and so the Richter says, Chaplain, there is no doubt that I have only brave and noble souls on this ship,
Of course.
and I'm
Indeed.
glad to have Officer Greaves back. And in fact, Booker, if you don't mind, I would like to talk business. We have something on the ship I would like you to take a look at.
Something on the ship that I should take a look. What exactly are we talking about here?
We have picked up some crew from a Vela ship that was in some distress. A ship called the Sad Songs. The ship had some trouble of late. We have their navigator, a handful of their crew, and while I don't think that they know this, one among them is illegal synthetic. We have them in the brig. They are deluded. They think they are human. Now, of course, with the Cirrus gone, we kind of performs a test, but their information matches the records. This is not simply about retirements. This person, he kind of scowls with disgust. He says they think that they are a member of House Vela. I need you to talk to this thing. Understand whether this is an act or if it is damaged in some way. They are tricky, and I do not have the hands-on experience with the illegals that you do.
What do we know about this in question synthetic?
The Sergeant Ibanez says it thinks its name is Shadi Bishara, member of House Vela, but obviously it's not. All of the information that we have on it indicates that this is indeed Unit D7 NPD K&K. It's clear in the records. This thing's a filthy synth, but it hasn't come clean. It thinks that it's a human, keeps insisting that we take it back to its house. It's disgusting, really.
Well,
We have some information that led us to this thing that indicates it might be part of a larger organization of them. Some kind of connected underground. That's why we haven't just retired the damn thing already. And he looks at the Richter. He looks at the Richter, and you can both pick up that they've had this argument before. Like Ibanez obviously wants to just like ice the thing and be done with it, but the Richter's like, no, we have some intelligence that indicates maybe this will lead us to something more, and you can sense the tension there between the two of them.
You have this synth detained now somewhere on the ship,
and he nods and he says, we do. It's in the brig for now. The rest of the crew thinks that it's dead. There was an incident, and we've managed to tell most of them that this Valen was killed. Now, of course, House Valen knows the truth. They've given it over to us to deal with this thing, but
my
kind of rolls his
apologies.
eyes. Like,
Great officers, forgive me for interrupting in your discussion of work. Have you spoken? You mentioned that this the synth came aboard this sad song. Were the other crew aware? They had to go unnoticed. It must have. Is there any indication that any of them were aware?
Yeah, Yancey sighs and he says, "Well, not every house has the stringent capabilities for detecting these things that we do. Some of them are more than happy to let these disgusting creatures come and go under their noses. They expect us to clean the mess up for them. House Vela has been traditionally much better at this, but I get the impression that this ship, we didn't have anyone stationed there. We only found out about it because of some intelligence that we picked up. This thing could have gone years without being noticed."
Have you spoken to any of the previous crew that you took on board to ask them if there was any change in behaviors or see if it was acting strangely, perhaps working late into the night, things such as this?
No. The Richter believed that it would be appropriate to wait until we had an expert on the ship.
Well, Agent Graves, it seems that this is most fortuitous for you to show us these skills that I have read so much about. If you require any assistance, you are welcome to my services. People like to speak to a chaplain now and then, and if it helps us determine one of these inhuman synths, I would be most willing to offer my aid where I can.
Thank you, Chaplain. That might work well.
Oh, please. It is God's will that we remove these creatures from our presence. Well, what a thing to come back to.
Yeah, and the Richter senses you're kind of like, oh, this is like kind of a lot, and he says, but this is a dinner, not a briefing. We can discuss this more tactically another time. and he looks to one of his servants. He's like, let's have the next course. Let's interrupt this and move on to the dessert, and then second dessert, and then cigars and cognac. And so you spend the rest of the evening.
Dessert.
You spend the rest of the evening with the Richter, talking and eating. And I think that we can probably go to break on that, and then you can pick up and start doing the for real investigation when we come back.
Mhm.
Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Awesome. Cool. Okay. Well, stick around. We're going to take a short break here, and we'll be back with part 2 of today's episode of Roleplay Far Verona right after this.
Sweet.